Hello and welcome to Loop Hero, a ShutIn Spotlight of a game that a lot of other people are already raving about, but I figured I'm enjoying this game so much myself that I might as well throw my 2 cents into it, as it were. Loop Hero is I suppose relatively new is the better way to word that game, that takes bits and pieces from a buttload of existing games and sort of meshes them all together in honestly, a very lovely little package. What you're looking at now is the town screen. This is where all of the resources that you can see here that you get from doing the actual looping in Loop Hero, where they will be stored and you can use them to build up a little village that will start from much more meager beginnings. This is me after having spent several days with the game. But one of the things, besides building the town, which you can do, say, from your build menu, you can build a wide variety of things to help sort of grow your town, each of which have sort of different effects from, say, the herbalist hut, which say can give you potions to use in battle, as well as unlocking some cards, but we'll get to the cards part in a minute, to things like the refuge to unlock, which allows you to unlock a new class, as well as other things, of course, in the game, but I figure those are two good examples. Of course, then whenever you want to build one of them, actually, I suppose we can maybe show this if I'm lucky. Whenever you want to build them, you'll have a menu like this, of course, where all the yellow tiles are where you can build the thing in question. So we'll build this. We'll go ahead and build this forest here next to the lumberjack hut. Why not? And just like that, our town grows a little bit more every time. Besides just building new structures, you can also upgrade existing ones. For example, I'll go ahead and upgrade this watchtower, which you can do with this little button here that says Upgrade Building. And it is nice that it'll tell you what a upgrade will actually do for it. In this case, the crossbow, or the watchtower itself, as you can see, basically will give you a few little, helpers that are able to help you fight enemies adjacent to your starting camp, which again we'll get to in a moment. So it'll tell you what you say we'll get for building it, what the costs are, and with that we can go ahead and upgrade it. There's also, as a bit of a story and a sort of cast of characters that will exist both in your town and the occasional one you might run into while running the loops. Let's see. Don't worry, those beasts won't scare my men. Well, that's good. Huh. Can I up it? Huh. Now, and also you can have, sorry about that, as well as building and upgrading your town, you also have certain little supplies that are sort of rare drops that you can find while running loops that you can take back and store in your town, and you can equip some of them and they will confer benefits to you in battle. For example, we'll go for example, the say brass candlestick will increase your damage by 5% when in range of, say, certain watchtowers or beacons, which again we'll talk to in a moment, or little things, in this case cheese, which is just you get an additional hit point for killing an enemy. You can also, there are a wide variety of them, but we won't loiter too long on this, or try not to. You can also, say, craft new pieces of items, or take pieces of gear and either craft new pieces or dismantle old pieces into raw materials. But I'm a little resource dry and I'm trying to save up, so we'll go ahead and keep our items to ourselves. And once you've come back from your loop, you've done everything you want to do in your camp, you kind of set out for another expedition. This is, as the menu will tell you, is the expedition menu. There are certain, let's see, how do I word this? The expedition is basically divided into chapters, at which point each are, as you can see, increasingly difficult, but also give you increasingly better amounts of loot, or on average anyway. And down at the bottom here, you get access to your different classes. Of course, when you first start the game, you start out with the Knight, but I've also unlocked the Rogue and the Necromancer. So for today's video, I'll be showing the Necromancer, as I am a mage at heart. Of course, they are all fun and they all play in their own special, unique way. And sometimes I'll bounce in between classes if I want to change things up. Over here you have your deck, which is composed of any number of these cards that you will accrue from playing, and part of upgrading your town will also give you certain new cards to bring into battle. Like earlier with the Herbalist Hut, it gave us the Swamp card, and each card does different things. Needless to say, in the case of the Swamp, you can place it on roads, and it will spawn a mosquito every 3 days. It also makes all healing effects lethal, like health regeneration, or just like traditional healing, except for your potions, thank God. You can also make, say, little villages that can, say, heal you on it and gives you quests. You can have little spooky vampire mansions, as well as you can develop sort of the terrain around it, which will confer various buffs. In the case of meadows, it gives a minimum of heals 2 HP for each individual meadow, which can stack up rather nicely. Say the forest give you attack speed, and of course different environment cards or tiles will give you different things. You also have this bottom row of like specialty things, and Oblivion is just a blow up a thing or blow up one tile and everything on it. A good catch-all are things like the beacon from earlier with the brass candlestick. A little beacon that, besides giving the movement speed for your hero and the attack speed for all units, remember the brass candlestick from earlier mentioned the fact that we get an additional damage boost of, I believe, 5% while we're in range of the beacon, so we get a little bit of extra perks, I suppose, for lack of a better word. Also, with certain upgrades to your town, you will get these little special thing called golden cards. You start with them in your hand, and you only get to activate them once. They will greatly vary greatly, of course being a subjective term, will change how you play the game, much like all of them will. These numbers on the side are the minimum and the maximum number of cards you can have of a given type. These are all of your on your road tiles, which you can see by the green full dot in the middle. The ones down here are tiles that will go adjacent to the road. So they will be able to affect the road, but they won't clog up the road on their own. This is the, as we talked about earlier, I suppose you would call it the environment tab. These can be put out in the, we'll say the void, which will make sense in a moment. And the special cards can be any number of these things. For instance, the beacon, we talked about earlier, is another one of those cards that have to go in the void. The arsenal, for example, which we'll be running in today's video, you can sort of make it out here over my mouse cursor, if I'm doing this right. You can see that it looks like half empty and half with a green circle. In the middle, that means it must be adjacent to the road, much like this second road. And of course, you have things like the Oblivion card, which is again a catch-all and kind of goes anywhere. The number down at the bottom is the collection of all of the, say, minimums, and then the one on the right is all the maximums, where the number in the middle is what you've chosen. This is, say, if you play Magic the Gathering or any card game, you are already kind of familiar with what I'm about to talk about, but if you aren't and you happen to stumble upon this video, the case for having the minimum amount of cards is that you increase the reliability of your deck, basically. If there's less things to get, the odds are higher that you'll get something that you want. Of course, if you go higher, you can get a wider variety of cool effects and do more things, but you sacrifice a bit of reliability. Of course, this can all be countered with, good RNG and a good, roll of the dice, if it were. I'm going to go with 11, although sometimes I'll change these things up to be more or less, or I'll change different cards altogether to go for different play styles. But whenever you've decided what your deck building menu, or from your deck building menu, what deck you'll be taking with you, you'll hit the confirm button. And once you've chosen your chapter, or basically what level you want to play, though level is a little bit of a weird term, and the class in question, we'll go ahead and hit the start button. And this will take us to the loop in question. We'll go ahead and pause real fast. Whenever you pause, which is, I believe, the default key is either the right mouse button or the space bar. There might be another one, but that's all I'm remembering. You are in planning mode, at which point you see sort of a bird's eye view of the world. Of course, the loop, much like the card you draw, is random every time, with a few things. For instance, you always start with a campfire, or a cozy camp. That is your home base and your safest place to leave and take all your goodies with you. Now, you see in my hand, down at the bottom, right now, only has one of the golden cards, which we talked about earlier. So we'll go ahead and place this card down now, besides not only for its effect of, say, giving me an additional item slot, which will be the shield, which is right now grayed out. Those are items your character you can't use, and the ones that are kind of filled in with black or have more color to them are items you can use. Of course, depending on the class you are running, certain classes will be able to use certain things and not others. For example, the warrior can use armor, and the warrior's book is replaced with like a weapon slot. Or the rogue gets 2 weapons, but they don't get like a necklace or like rings. So there is a bit of a personal flavor input here. But with all that out of the way, we'll go back to placing the arsenal card. Again, see how this is the symbol for it must be road adjacent. So we'll go ahead and I think we'll do we'll put you there. And then whenever we're ready, also you can see how we gather our new item slot is the shield slot. And thanks to one of the earlier items and places I've built at our camp, the smithy, we start with a selection of gear. Whenever you want to equip one of the aforementioned pieces of gear you get, whether it be from the start or items that might drop, you just simply grab it and drag it over the slot in question. Now, I can't use the armor or my weapons because I'm a necromancer. We don't really... Necromancers aren't typically in-your-face type of characters, although I'd love a good battle mage. As a slight side note, if you upgrade the smithy to level 2, the starting gear you get will change depending on your class. Another reason why sometimes you might want to upgrade one building over another. So it's a very good game to where you're able to play it a lot how you want, and the way you want to play it will likely not be the same from others. And now that we've done all this and explained all that, we'll go ahead and go out of planning mode into adventure mode. Really quick before we run into this slime, you can see right here. Your bar up here is your day progress. At the beginning of a new day, you get some... Your character, you, will say get a little bit of healing and other certain effects. Also, depending on what cards you have placed, certain cards will say spawn enemies at the start of a new day, or what have you. The bottom bar is the, I guess you call it like a boss progress bar. For every card you place, this bar will go up and up and up and up and up until you place enough cards to fill the bar, at which point the boss will spawn over your campfire. And then you'll have to try, you can choose to fight the boss or not once you get to the camp again. But that's very far and away, it's far away from what we're doing now. And for the sake of this video, we probably won't get that far. And now we'll go back to the combat with our first enemy here. You can pause the game by hovering over any one of the participants here. Loop Hero's combat, however, is largely... Well, the combat itself is entirely automatic, for lack of a better word. You can set everything up beforehand, but once you get into the battle will play out automatically. Of course, say you can activate items in combat, but you can't do much else other than that. You can also hover over a enemy to learn, say, what important stats they have, like your basic things like your HP and your damage and how many attacks per second they'll do, as well as abilities or certain other modifiers. And of course, our hero is our hero. And we being the Necromancer, the real big quirk of our class is we summon little skeletons, which you can see will get summoned and then just kind of whack away at your attackers. And here at the bottom right is all of our stats, which will grow and get bigger as you acquire more gear and run more loops. And also, with the defeat of that first slime, luckily actually, we dropped our first, we drew our first card. Also, you can see how I talked about earlier, the empty space above that means you can place it anywhere in the void, for lack of a better word. So we'll go ahead and we'll place you here, since I have a rough idea what I want to do with my build. I'm going to also open up my bag so you can see when I get the resources that I was talking about earlier, which you'll get from defeating enemies as well as passing through certain tiles and doing, various things. You'll get any number of resources which can vary depending on, again, the enemy or the tile in question. So that'll be another reason to, say, after one run, change up your deck to get a different type of loot or drop you need from the particular changed cards in question. Most gears, most resources, like the stable branches, as it says, 12 pieces of stick form a beam of stable wood. Most of them operate in this manner. Of course, say 12 sticks to one beam of wood. The conversion rate will differ from from resource to resource, sorry. And that is the basic core of the game. Again, when we get new items that we are wanting to upgrade, we'll just drag them over. Loop Hero also does a very good job of giving you, for the most part, all of the necessary information. It still does hide some things like synergies and stuff that we'll be able to talk about. And we'll also give you, that's some of the hidden stuff, some of the important information that I was talking about is something like the shield, which very clearly tells you what the prospective item in question is compared to what you have equipped, provided you have something equipped. So now we'll just go through and make some loops and try and get some loot and some experience in this case, which is our yellow bar here. Once we level up, the biggest thing really for leveling up, excuse me, is that you get a certain trait that's, picked from a large list, and you'll get a choice of, say, 3. Of course, you can't guarantee what trait you'll get. That's one of those, another sort of RNG roguelike element of the game, which helps to further increase the replay value. That every loop and every run will be different, and you'll get certain different traits. Again, all the lovely things that I've talked about. So we'll go ahead and just let the game play out. Go ahead and summon our skeletons. Also, if you couldn't tell from the particular art style, I love the art style for this game. It's got a very sort of high-res pixel look going on, as well as a lovely old-school soundtrack. It's everything I love aesthetically in a game. We're also, as you can see earlier, getting more drops of varying variety. We also got some more loot, so we'll go ahead and equip that in between battles. Nothing else is worthy of it, or worthy of getting. I also have a setting turned on, which I might be able to show you, actually. Oh, also, besides the options we'll get to in a moment, there's a buttload of language options. So, fingers crossed, your respective language will be here. You also have a choice of fonts. You can go pixel font, which are fun, and it's nice to do, but I sometimes have trouble reading my stats here, so I don't really use these right now. Although, if you want to, that's of course a choice to you, or a choice that I leave up to you. We'll use high-res fonts for the sake of this video, so I and you at home can actually read what's going on. So you can, say, pause a video and actually learn some things. A nice little note here is they have a dyslexia-friendly font, which is nice. As a person who, I don't have like like a diagnosed version, but I have that sort of common level of like very, very light, almost baby level dyslexia, where I can get tongue-tied over my words and changing the order of words when I read. This is a very nice thing. I haven't needed this, but the sheer fact that it is here is a very nice touch. Of course, we'll go back to that options menu that I was talking about earlier. I have the options to pause at more points, but you can, say, turn these off or on to your liking. I simply like to pause often so I can, properly think out what I'm going to do. Just wanted to give some credit to a nice little menu, or a very useful menu trait here. Now, we'll go back to the game. Oh, yes, the Forest and the Thicket card, we'll use these as examples. These respective buffs do stack, which I believe I touched on loosely during the sort of deck portion of this. So, for instance, I might actually be able to see. Our attack speed is plus 1% from the one forest we've placed. We're going to place the Thicket next, which is basically the forest big boy brother. We'll go ahead and place it. We'll place it here just to pick a place. And now you can see that the buffs do stack, and our attack speed is now plus 3%. The plus 1%, and of course plus 2%, making 3. Also, when you saw, I believe when we placed the forest, we got more, or another stable branch. Say if you run the mountain card, or like I think it's the mountain or the rock card, as they are two sides of a card there. You can say get more health for each one. Of course, that will vary from card to card, but the principle of the buff stacking the crossover still happens, regardless of what you pick. So now we'll just, again, let the game play. We can't really place this wheat field, since it can, as it says, only be placed next to villages. So we need to wait for a village to be able to play the wheat field. So we can have a little synergy, as it says, increasing the amount of HP we get when we visit a village. Of course, it does spawn scarecrows, so that's sort of the balance point of most cards. Even like your spider cocoon. This card does spawn enemies, but you can kill those enemies for loot and experience. So we'll go ahead and place... we'll go ahead and place that there. Where are we going to place this? We'll place you here. Why not? We'll also place a meadow. We'll also, I want to show this off. So right now, when we place a meadow by itself, we do get a little bit of some rations, which can turn into food. But right now, our regular meadow just heals 2 HP at the start of the day. With any luck, I'll be able to properly show you some synergies there as we battle yet more slimes. Another meadow. That works pretty well. Now, remember how our meadow, when placed next to nothing, just gives us an additional 2 HP, or heal us an additional 2 HP at the start of each day? Well, if we place a meadow next to basically anything, for our example here, we'll place it next to this thicket. Our meadow will turn into a blooming meadow, which heals 3 HP at the start of each day. So there are certain hidden synergies like this that I talked about earlier. This is, of course, probably the most basic hidden synergy that exists, but I did want to show it as a good example. And this is, by and large, the basics of the game. We'll go ahead, and for the most part, I like to try and place these cards as they show up, with some exceptions here and there. We do have a vampire mansion. Not certain where we'll want to place that yet, so we'll go ahead and sit on it for right now. There is our crossbowman. If you remember when I upgraded the watchtower, how I talked about and also showed that the watchtower summons little crossbowmen when you are relatively near your campfire. Of course, being adjacent when you first built the watchtower, but you saw me upgrade it to where it now goes one tile further, where my crossbowmen can support me. Of course, in this case, there are more... How do I word this? There are more... How do I word this properly? I apologize, I'm tripping over my words. But notice how I only had... Or if you were very keen, you noticed that I only upgraded one watchtower. And I had 2, if you happened to catch it. So my one upgraded watchtower was able to help me from an additional block away. But since I had 2 watchtowers, both of them were able to help me here. So this had both the level 1 watchtower person and the level 2 watchtower person helping me. And the level 2 could only help me here, though. So that's a practical application of me showing you what happens when you, say, build things in your camp and how they might affect your run. And of course, whenever you, say, complete a loop, you'll heal a certain amount. I don't remember the exact amount off the top of our head. It's 41% now. Now this is higher than normal because I have certain items that increase this, and certain things built. But from this point, you can see the little running man in the corner of my screen here. If we wanted to, we could go ahead and return to our camp. Now, this is the safe point that I talked about earlier, to where if you want to keep all of your gathered resources, if you do so once you are at your camp, you will keep all of them. If you say fall in battle, you will only keep, I believe, 30%. But we'll go ahead and stay and maybe do 1 or 2 more loops for the sake of this video. We also got a little grimoire, nice little summoning book, so we can go ahead and equip that. Of course, this increasing our skeleton level basically means that our skeletons, you know, are bigger, stronger, better, faster kind of thing. Now we're going to pause right now. Notice how the little icon isn't animated right now. If you are scared and think you won't make it to the campfire and you want to retreat, and you'll feel like you have to retreat in order to live, you can do so now. If you retreat while on the road, you only keep 60%. Now this is better, however, of course, than if you were to do it after you, say once you died, at which point you only keep 30%. So this is another skill that you'll learn by playing the game of when should I stay, when should I go, can I say, or do I think my build is strong enough to make one, or to finish this loop and make it back to the campfire, or should I cut my losses now and take it and run? We'll go ahead and stay. And you know, we'll go ahead and place a couple of vampire mansions here. And that is the sort of core gameplay loop of Loop Hero. A very, very fun and addicting sort of game that has a bunch of replayability and a lot of things that you're able to learn and sort of improve and finesse upon. Hi, baby girl. I know, Daddy doing video. I know. Hi, baby girl. Hello. So, I wanted to... Oh, hi. Hello. I know, I'm not petting you. Being a butthole, by all accounts. You also saw from that battle, we got another grimoire drop. There are... I guess you'll call them rarities of items. Where I believe it is your gray for your basic items. I believe it goes blue, then yellow, then orange, I believe. Though that order might not be correct. And, of course, where gray being the top and orange being your artifacts. Of, you know, great and terrible power. This is also shows earlier how I talked about showing important information. This gives us more skeleton level, which is more damage, basically. As well as attack speed. Attack speed is a little weird, as a little note for the Necromancer. Attack speed would work exactly how one would think it would work when you're, say, playing as the Knight or the Rogue. It affects simply, you know, how fast or how many times you hit them with your sword or your axe or what have you. Attack speed for a Necromancer, being a class that is not, what's the D&D term, a martial class, we don't really attack with weapons, although we do have a little basic attack. For us, attack speed is summon speed, for lack of a better word, though I understand that they didn't want to have to program in another stat. That's just a little programming save. So that's what those little abilities mean. We also got a cool little ability, or a thing called the Storm Temple. The Storm Temple, we'll see, basically puts a I guess you'll call it a cross on it. And much like it says, if you're on the cross's lines, every 5 seconds it'll strike 2 random targets, so it's nice. It's a little playing with fire, if you will. But it is a nice way to get some extra free damage. I'll also show one of the other little synergies that we've learned about to show you another one of those hidden synergy examples. We'll go ahead and put the thicket here, which we talked about already, increasing our attack speed. We'll also place the Storm Temple, showing the aforementioned cross where the storm shall hit, and pay close attention to our little thicket friend here. We burn the forest, which turns it into a different type of tile and gives a new effect, which is magic damage, which is basically what you would think it sounds like. It gives you an additional form of magic damage. I also believe that we got was either a change. I wasn't paying total attention, so please forgive my mistake. But you saw that we got a resource when we changed the tile. So these can be useful ways to acquire more resources en masse. We'll go ahead and place this meadow. Again, showing the blooming meadow sort of hidden synergy. So this game has a good amount of transparency when you need it, but enough secrets and mysteries to feel like you've grown and impacted the world in some meaningful way. And now we'll return to the loop. Also, how we talked about you can hover over your enemies. I would recommend you do this whenever you get a new enemy so you can learn certain things. For example, the vampire has certain abilities, much like everyone else. But it's an important, if you can, to learn these early on so you can make an informed decision here. Also, hell, something as simple as the vampire having vampirism is a nice little thing, as you'll see. When he starts to attack, he will heal for a little green number here. You can actually see the green number there. Also, he's other little summon the swarm of bats ability that we talked about. That was a particularly good little spoils, or run for spoils. We got some rings here, so we'll go ahead and equip these. There are a wide variety of stats that a piece of gear can have, and they all have their uses. There are no, for lack of a better word, dead stats. So don't be afraid to experiment with certain things, though what you might think is a good build or good will, of course, vary from person to person, so do a little bit of experimenting on your own time. We'll go ahead and check these other little items. Also, another little perk of the increased item rarity. Notice how the gray item only has one effect, the blue item has 2 effects, and the orange item has 4 effects. If we had a yellow item, or we get one, you would see that it would have 3 effects on it. So that's the way you're able to tell the rarity progression. Let's see. We'll place down a little spider cocoon over here. Maybe get another thicket. Also, we could, if you paid attention, when we added the thicket next to the previously regular meadow, it did actively turn it into the blooming meadow. So much like how the Storm Temple affected something after it was placed, don't be afraid that you've missed out on certain synergies, because you can always simply replace them. We'll go ahead and place another vampire mansion. And you can simply sit here and let the game play out and sort of contemplate what the next thing is you'll do. I figured for the sake of our next video, we would do, say, 2 or 3 loops here to sort of show. Yeah, we'll do this first. We'll show how villages work. The village is, as it says, when you pass through the village, it gives you, or heals you 30 HP upon entering, as well as giving you a quest. A quest will simply assign a random mob as the quest target, if anybody's played any RPG, we all know what kill quests are. For example, it might be go to this tile and kill a spider, or what have you. It will vary, of course, from person or from quest to quest. But we'll go ahead and place the village. We were also holding on to these wheat fields, so we add an additional 10 and another 10, so we could heal 30 HP plus the 20 from these 2 wheat fields will heal us 50 HP every time we pass through this village. So we'll go ahead and add those. Also, I was a little too fast with it, but hopefully you saw that for road tiles like this, and for much of the game is very good, and this is one of those giving you the appropriate amount of information. Whenever you, say, pull out a tile, regardless if it's, say, one like this, that's a road tile, or whether it could be a road tile or an adjacent tile or a sort of an empty tile, if you want to call it that. It's very good about telling you where you can and can't place things, so don't be too scared about terribly messing up the placement. Now, we'll show you our health will be at about a little before 230. Watch it, it'll jump back up to full in this case. Oh wow, it actually worked with a spider. Alright. So we healed and it gave us a quest, which you can see by our little crown here. Very simple of go here and kill this quest mob, which you'll get a little bit of experience and maybe an item or, say, some resources for killing. So we'll go ahead and mosey on over, fight our way through whatever creatures might spawn on our way to vanquish that mean, mean spider. Ooh, this is a blood grove. This will be one of our adjacent cards here. I know, welcome back, honey. That we can place that will affect the way the battles on the road will play. Much like, say, how the Vampire Mansion adds, say, vampires to the adjacent tiles, which you can see adjacent being in the blue here, or the, say, Spider Cocoon will add spider spawn to an adjacent tile. The Blood Grove, as long as we place it next to a forest, which a forest here, the Blood Grove is like a living forest that will consume and will eat enemies that are on low HP, so it's a nice way to, say, deal with certain... If a pack of mobs gets too large, it's nice to have to do significantly less damage. Of course, we're back on our quest now to kill that mean spider. You also saw that little lightning strike there from our Storm Temple. We'll also try and show... I'll show how you know that's going to happen. We'll also add some new loot to our table here. Now we'll go ahead and pause. Because we are right next to our campfire, those watchtowers are helping us with their crossbowmen. You can also see all of the active battlefield effects. The carnivorous roots being from the Blood Grove we talked about, and the Storm Temple effect being from the Storm Temple tile that I showed with the big scary cross, and it'll shoot lightning at everything, both enemy and ally. And if sort of the creatures themselves confer some sort of battlefield-wide buff, this is also where you can see it. Also, when you, say, if you wanted to keep track of which was your quest mob, being a quest goal, it will be one of the effects here. You can also kind of see the yellow bars, brackets at the end here, as another way to show you what mob is the quest mob in question. You can also see the, hopefully you saw the little lightning strike. It's very quick, so you might have missed it, but that's the beauty of a YouTube video. I know, honey. I love you. So we'll go ahead and place, say, one more Storm Temple. And you know what? We'll go ahead and add on. We'll stack the effects, since most things will stack unless it otherwise states that it can't. So we'll go ahead and add, say, the Storm Temple here to get even more lightning procs on these mean old spooters. Of course, we healed some and got some stuff for completing the loop. And much like before, being near the campfire, we had the help of our crossbowmen friends from our camp. Ooh, we have a new amulet, which is clearly an upgrade by the little up arrow that's next to the item in question. So we'll go ahead and equip that. And I think we'll do one last loop, and then we'll kind of call it for a video. Loop Hero is, as I mentioned before, a very fun sort of hodgepodge patchwork quilt of a number of genres, and it really does a lot of, or how do I word this? Because it does a lot of good things here, or it takes a lot of good ideas from various things. Roguelikes, a little bit of city builders, honestly one of those like auto-complete, sort of like cookie clicker style games where you don't have to do much. It takes a large amount of these things, and even slight RPG elements. It does all of these things and combines them into a loving, again, sort of patchwork quilt, or a lovely, you know, soup of all of these things. Also, you saw that at the end of that battle, we actually leveled up. When you leveled up, you can see this little hero traits menu that you can spend on a variety of things. We'll go ahead and do the Horde ability, which will get us some strengthened skeletons, where earlier I said the skeleton level affected, say, your damage and your health. Your skeleton quality is another stat, which will affect whether they're basic skeletons or big boy mean skeletons. We also got a new shield here. Ooh, we get more defense for our character and higher quality skeletons. Yes, please. Also see a grimoire here. More skeleton level and a little bit of evasion. Very nice. Ooh, we have a beacon, which is very nice. I talked earlier about how the beacon the beacon is one of those abilities that like has certain synergies, like with the brass candlestick. The beacon, as it says, within the particular range, highlighted by the blue here, will give our character a 40% move speed while on the loop. But its downside is that it gives a plus 20% attack speed for all units, both friendly and enemy. As I mentioned earlier, most cards in the game have a good trade-off of pros and cons, and I do enjoy that. There is a nice degree of thinking needed to play this game. Or a good degree of thinking is needed to play this game, as well as moments like this where you can just simply let something play out. We also got another new amulet. Gives us more magic HP, which is that little white bar you see over my health at the beginning of each battle. Some better quality skeletons, as well as meaner looking skeletons. That's pretty nice. We'll also show one more little hidden synergy in this video. Notice you see this vampire mansion. One of the bits of lore that you will learn early on in the game is that, and this is not any sort of spoiler lore, this is a side piece of lore that isn't going to destroy someone's enjoyment of the game, is that vampires will often act as sort of the lords of villages, but when they say don't have any sort of people to tend to, say any villagers, not only to protect but to say, you know, sustain them being vampires so they go a little less crazy, once they lose that, they go crazy and they fight us in the roads like they have been. But if you place a village next to it, normally a village looks like this, and it's happy and, you know, will give you health and quest. But if you place a village next to, you can, a vampire mansion, you can actually see it change from its normal village counterpart to this weird sort of ravaged village. And this is another one of those special hidden synergies that you feel smart for learning. I don't mind divulging a couple of these secrets. But also you can see this ransacked village adds to a bit of the lore and also tells you what. Now, we won't do 3 loops for the sake of this video, but if you can manage to survive 3 loops of this ransacked village, the village will manage to sort of heal itself as well as the vampires in question, and you'll get a higher quality village that will heal you even more HP. Of course, like everything, you have to take a bad trade for a little bit to get a good payoff at the end. You can still add some wheat fields for when you can go ahead and add wheat fields now, so that when it turns back into a normal village, you can still get the increased healing. But also, you can see the villagers here are under the thrall of the vampire. But notice how I very carefully placed them in the Storm Temple line. So the god of the storm, I believe is how the lore puts it, will actually help us out during this particular battle. We'll also put... also, we got an Oblivion card, so I'll show you how this works. The Oblivion card is, as it says, and as I mentioned earlier, a simple destroy everything on a tile, basically. It will also erase monsters from the road. But say if you don't like this vampire mansion, or you say are low health and need to get through a mob or something, you can take the Oblivion card and you can hover over something you want to delete. For instance, we'll say that these 2 slimes here, ooh, I don't feel confident about taking on these guys. So we can, if we want to, cash in an Oblivion card to clear them from the road. So don't be afraid to use an Oblivion card as a sort of defensive tool if you need to. I'm also going to put a little forest here, or in this case a burned forest. Maybe we can find some synergies here. These ghouls are what happens when the vampire initially goes back to feeding on humans, you know, as their thrall. Of course, in a few loops here, the vampire will have sated himself and the town will return to prosperity under the watchful guise of the vampire. You can also see those little lightning bolts targeting our enemies, like that. Also, I talked earlier that you can equip certain items in battle to change and get more stats mid-battle, which is something you do often want to do. Let's see, we can get some other items, but really nothing else is terribly good here, so we'll just go ahead and play this out. Also, the Skeleton Warrior, this is very good, that just spawned, is a result of our summon quality, where the increased quality of summons can be... Skeleton Warriors are basically like a skeleton tank that have additional effects, as well as dealing a little bit more damage. Doing a pretty good job of dealing with these effects. Of course, every once in a while, a lightning strike hits our own units. Kind of like that moment there, too. Which is not terribly helpful. But I do think that we'll be able to make it through here with relative ease. And we also got little items after defeating it For example, that Orb of Expansion that just spawned is a relatively rare item that spawns and only drops after you defeat an enemy or defeat four or more enemies on one tile, which that particular village had 5, as you saw. So we got a little Orb of Expansion, which is a pretty useful little resource. And now we'll simply try and make it home and get away with as many resources as we can to help build our village and help return to the world to how it once was. And besides all of these various little bits of loot that you get, sometimes you get special artifacts like this that you can take back to town, that you can equip to your town, much like the, say, the cheese from earlier or the blacksmith candles, that you can apply to your village, and they will give you lasting buffs that will last, you know, far or into subsequent loops, that you don't have to take them with you in battle. Now we'll go ahead and place a lot of thickets here, so I can show you one more little hidden synergy. Watch for when we get to hopefully 10. As you'll see, hopefully this spawns. I don't know where we are on this. Notice how when we placed our 10th, we got a village, which is sometimes, if depending on what you place in the world around you, we can also add radiant spawns to the road. And the village here is a result, as it says, a result of the forest attempts to understand a human civilization, which spawns a wooden warrior every 2 days. This also tells you that every 10 forest or thicket tiles disappears. This will also, on your first, and some things like the, say, the ransacked village or running into a vampire or going to your first village, will have little interactions with your character, and that as a way to sort of build the world. Ooh, doing pretty well. Of course, the storm god here helping us clear up these mobs since we are in his ooh. Do these have like particularly unique? Sorry, I just got the Arsenal card like yesterday, so I thought that the shields you got all looked like the Knight shield, but sometimes you get cool looking new shields. That's so cool. See, even moments like this, I can learn new things, and you can too if you decide to play this. Also, watch our health as we go over the particular village in question, and watch our health go back up. Ooh, and more fancy-looking new shields. A necromancer with the shield is one step closer to a battle mage, which I must admit are kind of my jam. Now, in order to finish this video out in a clean and even fashion, we'll go ahead and once again use the Oblivion on the road to clear out all sort of mobs and give us a straight shot to our campfire. Once we got there, we can go ahead and leave. And again, as we talked about earlier, if you happen to leave of your own volition at the campfire, we get to keep everything that we have. Everything that we have collected on our particular loop. So we'll go ahead and leave and go back to town. There's another watchtower. Of course, we're shy on some resources, so we'll go ahead. I'll go ahead and play a little more of this and upgrade our watchtowers off video. But that was and is Loop Hero, a fun little game that I think you all should try out at home. Also, for the near future, until the next MGG set that comes out, we might be doing one of these videos a week. So it'll be, say, one Magic video and one, in this case, Loop Hero, or a variety gaming video, just so I don't get too burnt out in between sets. But with that out of the way, you can find Loop Hero on Steam. Like the video if you liked it, sub if you like me, and if you have any questions, that's what the comments are for. Thank you all, have a great day, and I'm pulling for you. We're all in this together.